everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order for regular council meeting for Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. It is now 6:34. Ms. Monroe, would you like to call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Don Barnard. Tiffany Hollis.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Dave Seeland.
Here.
Jeff Barr.
Present.
Wes Coble.
Here.
Bob Orsini.
Here.
If we could please stand for the invocation. Tonight it's by Pastor Matt Van Winkle from the Johnstown United Methodist Church.
Let us pray. Lord of life and maker of all things good, receive our prayer as we have assembled, providing your blessing of providence upon all endeavors brought before this gathering tonight. We pray you to likewise continue in protecting those who protect us, especially those women and men who have selflessly chosen to put on a uniform and stand their post, whether domestic or abroad. It is also our desire for our schools, community, and all who call this city home to be given any necessary opportunities to prosper and thrive regardless of any outside influences. And finally, should decisions be made tonight that we dislike or do not understand, grant us the grace to accept them and support them as part of your greater plans. With your blessings eternal, we submit this prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, sir. First item on the agenda is approval of agenda. We received the agenda from Ms. Monroe on Friday. Thank you for doing that and getting it out on Fridays, Teresa. Do we have any alterations, changes, or additions to it?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
under executive session 15, can we switch A and B, just due to the number of candidates, that we don't have
Yes.
the majority waiting on the minority?
Okay. Okay. Any other changes? Hearing none, I make a motion that we approve the agenda with the one change that Mr. Orsini has.
Second.
Are all in favor?
Aye. Okay, actions on minutes. Ms. Monroe sent us the August 20th, 2024 minutes. Does anyone have any changes or additions or deletions to these minutes from that meeting? I believe that was the meeting. No, you were there. I was thinking that was the one you were going to, but you weren't. Does anybody have anything for that one? Hearing none, what is the will of council?
Make a motion to pass the minutes as written.
Second.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Coble.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Approved.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Okay. We have citizen comments on matters not on the agenda. Do we have anybody here tonight that would like to speak for anything that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Council committee reports. Planning and zoning, they met on September 10th. Their next one is September, and we passed that as well.
Does that include the
you go.
Yes.
It's for that parcel, yeah, so it's everything, the old part there.
So the whole parcel is the same now?
Yeah. Okay. We had split zoning on there, and it literally split the center of the building, for those of you that weren't familiar with it, which is an odd practice, but it does happen in older cities somehow, and so it is all now the same thing, GCC two.
Okay. And I believe we have a piece of agenda, or a piece of,
We do, we had a, yeah.
I have a question.
You see later.
Relating to that property, are the residential houses have been sold, to my understanding?
There's still residences behind there, and we did talk about that during the meeting. They're still back there. I'm not sure if they're rentals or if they're owner occupied, but they are still back there. If they have, that was something we talked about previously in the past. We've talked about easements through there, and we determined that was on the property owner to register an easement. So they've been like that a long time as well. And we've called that out in the past when they've come in for permits, that you need to have an easement there. And ultimately, that's on the property owner.
Thank you.
Anything else? Design Review Board, their 9/10 meeting was canceled. Their next is next Tuesday at 5 PM in council chambers. Finance met tonight. Our next one is 10/1/24 at 5 PM in council chambers. We talked about the budget, should be getting items for the budget. We looked at the financials for the first 6 months, and council, or finance approved the, to allow the city manager to continue moving forward with the design review with MKSK, that they would go ahead and start that process. So that process is being started. So we can hopefully get design review standards to the correct board, so. That was all
Is
from,
that in the report somewhere, or is that in this?
it's not in that, it's in the agenda for the finance committee.
Okay.
Township liaison meeting, their meeting on the 9th was canceled. Do you guys have a date scheduled for that yet?
We have a couple, well, we have one coming up here that we just discussed today, so we're seeing how that filters out. But again, just a launch of a meeting to talk about mission statement, our term designations, the list of the townships to, to reach out for engagement, the outreach strategy, and then also messaging to those townships too. But once we get that scheduled, we'll let Teresa and the rest of the team know.
Director reports, we received a director report from the police chief and the city manager. Does anyone have any questions for Chief Smart on his report?
I do. Chief, I saw the traffic stops were up again last month there. I was curious if any of them are, might have been dump truck infractions or anything of that nature?
Not that I'm aware of.
No? Okay. Is that still a problem that we're having with them taking the side streets everywhere?
I haven't seen it as bad as it was previous month.
Anybody else for Chief?
Anything in there that concerns you of anything that you should red flag for us? I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the city manager also gave his report. Mr. Stainer, is there anything you'd like to report on in that you find that we need to know about?
Sure, and always available for questions outside of the ones that I kind of highlight. So I will highlight a couple of them. Some of them are literally highlighted in your packet. So we'll start off with LCATs. I would like to bring in Morpsey to explain this a little bit further, but we had talked about the Leafy Dell project and how it's kind of being split between LCATs and Morpsey's because of the timing and us moving to a different urbanized area. I had a discussion with Morpsey, and I've copied and pasted some of the wording. Theirs is an attributable fund, so I'm asking for them to sign the document prior to us moving. Their ability to sign that funding is not happening until spring, but it's not exactly like our particular budgeting process. And this is where I feel more comfortable if they would come in to speak to this, to make you feel more at ease. After hearing it, I felt more at ease and felt comfortable to move forward, but your hesitation is probably going to be anticipated without having that fine line signature on that document. There is probably a good reason for questions. But like I said, theirs is an attributable fund. It's not necessarily, once it gets into the funding, then they pass it all. It's not necessarily a situation where they scratch items or anything like that. But they're going to do a much better job of explaining that. So be looking out for a meeting with Morpsey to have them come in and give some kind of background a little bit further on that. And they're going to be there to answer questions that I'm just not going to have the ability to do. So
They're going to come to a council meeting, finance?
I believe I'd like to have them for the entirety of council. That's my first preference, just because I would anticipate questions from all of the body. However, if council would like for them to weigh this out to finance committee or service committee and have that committee make a recommendation, we can do that as well. Whatever your comfort level exists, I'll defer to you all.
Sean, I got a question about this traffic signal. Probably done before I got on council, some kind of study or traffic engineering study was completed on this.
The Leafy Dell, correct? Before my time as well.
Before any of us were on council?
Yes, but I would anticipate there was some needs analysis done associated with that particular area. That's just an estimate. Whenever I came on board, it was already in the hopper to be worked through. So I can ask a little bit more, see if I can find out some more data from LCATS and ODOT as if there was a needs analysis done for this particular project.
I only bring it up because it's another traffic signal on North Main Street. And I realize roundabouts are probably more expensive.
I think it initially was a roundabout. If I remember right, it was initially going to be a roundabout, and then it was changed.
Because of funding, if I'm not
Was it
mistaken.
funded?
That I'm 90% certain to confirm, yes, because ODOT and LCATS came in. I believe our portion is rather small compared to their portion of this. If the city had a desire to do a roundabout, obviously, our participation would have to increase pretty extensively.
Can we get what the numbers would be on both sides?
I can go back and see if there is some number associated with it, and it may have been preliminary design, so they may not have had a hard number. I believe ODOT, some of their commitment is they're looking to engineer this. Another piece of it was they're doing the repavement project through 37. That was supposed to be a year earlier, but it got pushed back, so that was another piece of the initiative. So I can have some more details for you.
I mean, just my experience with roundabouts compared to traffic lights.
I don't disagree.
I mean, it seems that it would be right for a roundabout rather than a traffic light. I know we have our initiative on the ballot in November, and if successful, I think it would be more appropriate to have a roundabout rather than another traffic light.
You're not going to get an argument here.
That's my opinion. Sounds like others agree.
Okay.
Real quickly, you're all aware, if you're not, we'll make you aware, 3762 mitigation, that was part of the $90 million of funding that the state released for the area as it related to Intel and the investments being made. So this is one of those pieces that involve us directly. So American Structure Point, that's short for ASP, has completed their fee proposal and scope of services. This is being handled through the TID, but with our participation. So we've had a kickoff meeting with that just to kind of go over the scope, make sure that we're all tracking, everything's moving forward with that. We have our meeting this week with Southwest Licking, just as a reminder for those participants. That will be September 19th at 3 o'clock. We'll meet here. Also, Johnstown NPDS permit. Jersey Township has requested a hearing on that. A date has been set for that hearing. It is October the 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Independent Baptist Church. I would encourage all of council members to attend, showing their support for our wastewater treatment plant expansion, and encourage any other residents that you have in the area to, if they have support for it, to show up and just be there in support of that particular project.
Sean, can I ask, what entities are going to be at that meeting exactly? Like, what players will be there, if you will?
So Ohio EPA will be conducting the hearing. If you went to the hearing that was held at the
Boots Run.
Moots Run, I can't remember the church's name, but it was near Alexandria. If you attended that hearing, it will be an exact carbon copy of that process.
Okay.
So there'll be a opportunity for people to submit questions, another opportunity for people to make public statements, and then you can give verbal or written statements for the record. So that will be the process. Ohio EPA will be there, and we will obviously be there representing the city, and then we'll probably have our attorneys and our engineers there to back us up. So continuing on, 15 County Water Study. Just as a quick update, they had their real quick summary since that process is going on. And I won't bore you with all of the details. I'll try to summarize it, but I would encourage you to read this. And I'm just going to point out for this study and the water usage calculations that they're trying to use for each one of these areas, they're leaning on the comprehensive plans heavily. Some of the comprehensive plans have been, Woodlands Township's comprehensive plan, there is enough retail area to consist of 3 Eastons. Jamie Green had put it into context of Walmart's. It's a sizable area. That's not realistic, especially when it's surrounded by agriculture. So you have to have a customer base for all of these things. But when you're determining water usage on a retail scale or something along those signs, it obviously affects the demand that Hazen and Sawyer is trying to put on it. Morpsey is trying to capture that, because I think Hazen and Sawyer is asking Morpsey for some feedback. Morpsey's our planning entity for the Central Ohio area, so we're working with Morpsey. We've had some communications on the sidelines with them, as well as Jamie Green from Framework has had some sidebars with them as well. It's a big concern we have. Hebron did their comprehensive plan, and they did a future land use map, and once they reevaluated it, they were very open. And hopefully I'm not gonna hopefully this is a quasi-safe place for everyone to at least be open to the fact that we're learning as we go in Licking County. And they very openly put it out there. We wanted to have some scrutiny to see if we did our plan correctly. And Planning Next, through Frameworks Initiative, took that task and they looked at it. And the absorption rate and the amount of housing they had, it came to some ridiculous amount of housing, something like 50,000 or something. So that's not a realistic number. So that's the challenge that we're having of input in is determining the output. So I just bring that to your attention. That's some of the challenges we're struggling with, and we're on our end trying to level set that so we can have a good outcome from the Hazen and Sawyer project. Parks and Recs, reiterate this, I really would love at some point for MKSK to do a large Park and Rec conservation master plan. I'm hopeful, and I bring it up now because we're talking about budgets. I think this is one of those foundational pieces that is going to have long-lasting, determining impacts on these preservation of parks and the recreation facility. So just think about that for next year's budget. I know this year we did a comprehensive plan.
Sean, with the city and the school board moving legislation forward to potentially extend the life of the recreation district, I feel it'd be appropriate that they would do it.
You mean they pay for part of it or they pay for all of it?
Well, letting them take the lead.
Oh, okay.
Letting them take the lead. Let's worry about the money later, but letting them do that, because in the end, if they're going to exist, this would be their wheelhouse. This would be in their court. Now, they're a young, new board, if you will, don't have the experience in, well, they have experience, obviously. You get my point that the city could be behind them and support them both with the knowledge and the financial piece, potentially. Allow them to do that. It would be appropriate, and it would also give them some opportunity to do some meaningful work, is what I'm suggesting.
And just to clarify, you're looking at having the Greater Park and Rec District kind of be the lead for this, not necessarily the school, but the Greater Park and Rec District be the lead on kind of that.
Letting them do,
Yeah.
they are commissioning this master plan.
Okay.
Not the city of Johnstown, because I feel pretty comfortable that this board would approve the 30-year. I'm being optimistic about the school board. Their vote will determine that. But if successful, if this recreation district had 30 years, they would absolutely be the one to go forward with creating a master plan.
I think it's definitely an idea worth looking at. I think it's creative and looking at it in that perspective. So I'm excited about having them start to take more responsibilities and seeing how this would fold into that. So can certainly look into that. As you mentioned, I think there's a financial component, but allowing the city and the school maybe to prop that financial component up while allowing that board to have some more.
I don't think we
Feet
should
underneath
count on the
them.
school board for any financial, just putting it out there. But also, when I was on the Recreation District Board, can't remember the name right now, but there was a landscape architecture firm that was willing to not charge full price of what a master plan would be, because it was a new board. They were willing to do some work. They're not doing it for free, but one of the board members that is serving now while I served, I turned it over to that person, so that could be something they could follow up with that firm. And like I said, it'll be a good exercise for them in governance 101.
Definitely love to hear more about it. So, okay.
Now, I would be assuming that that is if we pass the tax initiative, we would,
No, the 30-year is based on,
no, I'm talking about spending money on a
If we
plan for the
spend
person.
money,
yeah.
That's only if we pass the tax.
that's a,
Well,
Okay.
I think you guys could,
I'm just like making sure we're, okay.
Yeah.
greater conversation for you all. I would suggest you look at your goal sheet and stick to that, and if this doesn't fall into that purview for expenditures, then you assess it at the time. So I don't wanna give you an answer, because I think it's not gonna be my answer, it's gonna be a variety of answers from council, so. I wouldn't be able to answer that, is what I'm telling you. I'll take direction from you all as to what you wanna spend the money on.
Anything else, Sean?
Yeah, so school district, and this kind of folds into the conversation that Jeff just brought up. Dr. Wagner and I met this last week with MKSK really quickly to do a high-level inventory. They're going to do, like I said, a 30,000-foot view to review current properties, facility assessments. Items of discussion include, and this is a misspelled word on my part, administrative, not administrate buildings, classroom space. So we're obviously trying to plan for the future, what type of space they need, what type of acreage they need to facilitate the buildings that they need. Administrative buildings, not only for them, but for the city, athletic facilities, and that dives into that greater Park and Rec district conversation as well, and then open field space. And I think that piece stands in both platforms with the school district as well as that greater Park and Rec district. So I think just having a current inventory and real high-level review is going to serve us well as we're starting to lay out some of the pieces on the board. If we don't start to plan now, I think there's going to be missed opportunities as facilities start to get constructed or space and development starts to happen without this particular knowledge base of where we intentionally want things. If you don't intentionally plan for where you want things, it will just happen for you, and the product that you will receive will be vastly failing. So,
Sean, is the Recreation Board involved in this process with?
they can be as involved or uninvolved. My preference would be, like I said, it was an introductory meeting, just as Dr. Wagner and I kind of sat down to brainstorm, is this something we wanted to challenge ourselves with? And we spitballed ideas, and we have a follow-up meeting coming this next Monday, and I think we're going to get some information there. Like I said, my preference is, if everyone's agreeable, to probably have a couple council members, a couple school board members, and a couple Greater Park and Rec District individuals a part of these conversations if it's going to continue. So very much my preference would be to, yes, include three parties to the discussion, absolutely. If that's consistent with what you want.
I feel the Recreation District should absolutely be involved as much as the city and the school board with this as well. So that they're in the loop and thank you.
You bet.
Anything else on that one? I want to go back to the union
No, we can wrap that one up, and I anticipate further questions, but I'm excited for those, and we'll dive into those as they start to come at us. But yeah, if you have a union question, fire away.
Can you just give an update? I see that they asked for information, but kind of like where things are at. We're working on a current, this is will be the first contract, correct?
Correct.
In the end, this contract will need to be approved by us.
Correct.
So should we expect any kind of, have you guys, kind of where you guys are at?
We are at the very, very, very beginning.
Okay.
They have voted to accept AFSCME.
AFSCME.
Ask me. There you go.
Okay.
I dangerously say that.
Yep.
So the communication we just received this week, and I'm not the legal team that's going to give you the technicalities, so I will try to paraphrase, but I do this dangerously because I know these things have legal ramifications, so I will try to gingerly walk into this. We are now going to start entering into the planning meeting dates. We are not there yet. We have not met. They are simply requesting our budget for all of the entities that are comprised of the union and getting them various 22, 23 budgets.
Typical stuff.
Absolutely. All of the things that they're going to need, our organizational structure, all of the
How many
information.
you've hired and fired, budget, the whole 9 yards. That's kind of
And
where
vote.
you're at now.
Yeah, so they're going to receive that. The last communication we received, I believe they're wanting to meet at least twice in October. So I would say in October, we're going
Is
to.
our legal counsel, I forget his name,
Dave Reaper.
Dave. Does he have a draft of, probably pulling it off the shelf from somewhere else, of the articles that,
If it's like the last time, he will have a draft that he'll propose to, that we give to them based on what he's done for prior.
right, that's, who's your management committee going to be with when it comes time for actually sitting at the table and doing the bargaining?
And that's what we're addressing right now. I believe the last time with the police union contract negotiations, it was myself, Dave Delandy, the mayor, and the chief of police for our side of the table. I say that not in a misgiving way, but just for the factual. I'm not trying to create sides here. Just
I understand.
people sitting at a table, and they've obviously got to represent each entity. My anticipation with this particular union negotiations would be myself, Dave Delandy, our service director, Jack, since he oversees all of those, as well as another council member. If the mayor is the chosen one to do that, since he's walked through the one prior to that, that's fine. I'll let you all determine how that would look.
I'd almost,
from your perspective.
because it's going to start in October and my schedule is going to be very busy with work in October, I'd almost rather have Jeff do it since he's on the finance committee and he just went through one anyway, so. I mean, that's my thought. I would like someone from the finance committee to be there since they're representing the finance, so.
That management committee can be as many as 2 or 3, because it doesn't have a quorum.
Correct.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to be part of that, but give consideration of another council member. There are several people here with contract negotiation experience that, having not difference of opinions, but just different experiences in contract negotiations can only benefit from the management side of things, so that we have a good contract.
Because Dave's been through contract negotiations, correct?
And union too.
Yep. So
Maybe the two of you.
the AFSCME's legal counsel, is this going to be a traditional bargaining approach, or will it be forget the term. It's a issue-based bargaining. I think that's what it is.
I'll defer to our legal counsel. Probably my recommendation.
You would either know it is or isn't.
What's that?
You would, are you guys talking about that? Have
Not
you-
yet. We haven't even had those
Okay,
conversations yet.
never mind. You don't have to. I was just asking if it,
What we did last time was kind of a kickoff to it. We had Dave Riepenoff come in and have an executive session with council just to kind of give a format and flow of what it will be. I think that would be the appropriate time for you all to decide who you want to be on it, because that will obviously determine the scheduling of this. We have to be respectful of everyone's schedule, and I like the participation from you all. If you're going to be there, obviously, we need to get some dates and some
yeah,
times worked out.
it's got to be set, and we have to be committed to it.
Yep, absolutely. So with that said, I can have Dave Riepenoff scheduled for the next council meeting. We'll do a quick executive session and kind of get the lay of the land. We just received that formal letter this week,
Okay.
hot off the press, so.
I get the general sense, does anybody else want to be part of that? Dave is over there smiling ear to ear. It sounds like he wants to as well.
Not everyone at once, right? No, I'm definitely on board for that.
Confident
That's
in you guys.
wheelhouse.
This one.
Is that it, Sean?
Thank you. I didn't mean to drag all this out on.
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Sean,
Yes.
not to
No, you're good.
jump in. Point 4 about the vehicle and travel policy, did I miss the notes about that, or?
You did not. That was a quick audible that Teresa and I were going back and forth with quite a few times on Friday.
There's some changes that need to be made because we're in union negotiations. Anything we add or take away right now could be, impact the union negotiations. So our attorney is looking at drafting, adding certain language so that we could go ahead and pass it and not impact union negotiations.
The mayor's completely accurate on that, so. Yep, that summarizes that. That's why you did not see it in the packet. I mistakenly thought it was in there, so much so that I asked Teresa to take it off. She said, I didn't put it in. I couldn't remember where we landed. Friday was a flurry of activity, so it did not land in the packet, which worked out well. So you'll probably see that at our next council meeting with some changes that we need to have from our HR team, so.
I'd be remiss to ask, since it's in here and there's so many people have been asking about it, what is the status of fiber to the town? I know 2 years ago when we started, or when Ryan and I both got on council, we were given a proposal that they'd be having fiber installed soon. It's almost 3 years later and the fiber's still not here, so did they say what the status is?
So there's one company that I believe this is the one you're referencing, and that's Horizon. I was not here, don't have a tremendous amount of background. My awareness is they are currently pulling right-of-way permits and are currently installing. Now, I don't know where they have installations currently and where they're still doing installations. I have not seen their POP sites, they call it, kind of the hub. I've not seen those installed yet. I would imagine for it to get online that those have to be kind of put in place. So I can check with Horizon. And
I think it'd just be good, since we've talked about it before, I know.
Yeah, I can check with them. Brightspeed is an alternative company. Brightspeed, formerly known as, I'm going to go all the way back to Embark, but that's not their latest one, CenturyLink. I've had a variety of names over the years, but CenturyLink just got bought out by Brightspeed or acquired or some various type. So we're still working with them on some of that conversation. You all are aware of that. I'm not going to bring that up in the public at this point, but they have received some of the comments that we all talked about, and they're reviewing the feasibility of addressing some of those concerns. And I can give you an update once we meet this Thursday on our second Teams meeting.
Okay.
One other item, HTB Pure Exchange. I've been asked by an engineering firm that did a presentation for Licking County and what's called a peer exchange to Round Rock, Texas. Officials and administrators from Licking County would engage with this to understand some of the struggles. They would engage with the officials from Round Rock to understand the struggles and successes that come with increased development. I gave you a link to kind of summarize what's happening in Round Rock or has happened in Round Rock, Texas. Samsung semiconductor facility went in there, quite a big expansion for them. To my knowledge right now, Bill Lozier has been asked, Dwayne Flowers has been asked, Mayor Johns has been asked, and myself have been asked to attend. I believe Tim Hickens from Pataskala was asked, but he has a conflict. It would be on September 22nd. So this is coming at us pretty quickly. There is a cost associated with it. I would be, or the city would be responsible for my airfare, as well as some hotel stay. As far as meals and things like that, the engineering firm would be picking that up. So if you have a desire for me to go, get some background from those locals in Round Rock, Texas, I will attend. If you want to take a pass on this one for now, we can do that as well. The cost for airfare right now is right around $1,000, depending on which day you get. Hotel rooms, I believe, are right around $100 a night. It would be 2 nights. Flight out is, I believe, at 4 on Sunday, and getting back at, I believe, Tuesday afternoon. So,
Are there any objections, Sean, doing this trip and learning more that could help impact us?
I'll say it in the sense that the optics of what's on the ballot in November and spending the money, I'm not saying it's not worthy of it, but I feel like one of us needs to say it out loud and not just think it. And all I'm saying is that should be part of our consideration is all.
Any other objections?
I agree, completely agree. Not that I don't think it would be beneficial, I think it would be greatly beneficial, and I think it would be very informative from what I read. But
Okay.
Is there any options to web conference or anything that might be?
no, there's going to be a lot of mobility, I guess, throughout the day, meeting with the auditors to kind of look at the financial implications, as well as infrastructure, water, sewer departments, roadway. That's a big reason Bill Lozier's going for infrastructure from a roadway standpoint, as well as some of the municipalities, the impacts it's had. So just a variety of things. I can't speak to it all that much because I don't have the background on it. But I completely respect the concerns of the financial situation that we're looking at. It is short notice. I would have to rearrange some things on my personal schedule, but if there is a strong emphasis to go, I will absolutely make time. I feel like it could be worthwhile, but obviously I'm definitely concerned about the optics of it, so.
How long have they had the Samsung site there?
Would you ask Ryan? I'm sorry.
How long have they had the Samsung site? I mean, I'm all for working together with cities and things like that. I just want to make sure it's a Goldilocks situation where they're not like 3 years into it and they, I want to make sure that we're learning and comparing apples to apples.
I think they are probably into it for some extensive period of time. Framework initiative that was done by the T.J. Evans Foundation referenced Round Rock in their portfolio as an area that could be considered as something comparable. I don't want to say comparable. People start putting things together in a wrong way. Chandler was used oftentimes, I think, for some references, and I don't think Chandler checks the box as an exact carbon copy of what's going to happen here. There's a lot of different parameters.
That's what I mean. We sent people to Chandler, and I don't know what we really gained from that. I mean, it was good to check it out, but I know that we had phone calls. We had, we saw a lot of other data just here in person. So, again, the cost, if that's an issue for people, I just want to make sure that we're gaining it.
It looks like they broke ground in 2022, and it'll be operational in 2026. So I think they're a few years out ahead of us. Now, it does read to be an expansion without spending a bunch of time digging into it, but
No, you're
That's, as far
correct.
as your question, that's the best I could glean.
That's what I mean, if they were,
In 2 minutes.
if they were operational 5 years ago and we could take a look at what 5 years later looks like, that would be nice, but.
I believe that is the case. This is an expansion. They've had a tremendous amount of activity in that particular area. Like I said, I don't have all the background on it. I got a phone call last Thursday about it. So, yeah, I think they've been an economic hub for quite some time, at least five years at a minimum, and so they continue to see more expansions
For
happening.
confirmation, it's the Taylor, Texas site.
I'm sorry, what?
Again, it's everything's listed under Taylor, nothing says Round Rocks.
So it's Austin.
Or Austin is the
Yep.
major.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the major metro, and then everything else kind of exists as, and it's.
I'm with you guys on watching the spend, but for $1,500, if we get one nugget, it could pay multiples on the other side. That's the risk balance that I'm looking at.
It's a valid point. My comment was that
And I agree, a valid point that, we
It's-
gotta start cutting somewhere, but, and every penny's, a handful of pennies is a dollar, I get that analogy, but
It's hard managing the city at this point, having to not be able to do what we need to do to manage the city because of the optics of the tax that are coming up.
do you have any confidants that are going in that group that you could sit down and have real conversations with on a level that you think, see things the way you do and you can relate and communicate and maybe pull some of that value out without going?
I trust Bill Lozier is a good reference. He has a pretty good awareness of not only roadway infrastructure, but other infrastructure as well. He's not a financial wizard by any means. I'm not saying that to downplay his importance, but when it comes to municipal funding and things like that, he did work for Newark, but that's not going to be his wheelhouse. So that's going to be a component that he would probably not embrace whenever he's there as far as what he's looking at. He's going to look for things that are specific to roadway projects, but the income tax collection,
they don't have a state income tax in
They
That's what I
don't.
was just going to say.
you're
It's
absolutely right.
pretty
I
interesting.
just personally think that the optics, and I understand what you're saying, Bob, but there's, those forums and with Morphe and stuff, those opportunities to learn are here locally as well too. That's kind of where I'm at. If the decision needs to be made today.
Do you want us to vote on it so you know?
It's $100 a day on the plane ticket, so we should probably go around.
That plane
now.
ticket seems
Right.
excessive.
I would tell you that with what feedback I'm
They
getting,
are a lot, but that seems like.
I
But
don't
it is
believe
short
I would
notice,
book the
so-
ticket
Okay.
as it currently sits.
Going to Austin.
And that's okay. This wasn't meant to be brought up to be a decisive or
The draft flight.
confrontational situation. The
Why don't you talk-
offer was out there, and out of respect for the offer, I wanted to bring it before you all. If you have a desire for me to go, great. If you don't, that's as well too. I don't want this to be a conflict point. I don't know that it warrants that type of conversation. So if there is hesitation, I'm completely fine with not going and meeting with Bill Lozier afterwards.
Why don't you talk to Bill and tell him and let,
Let's move ahead.
Yeah.
okay.
You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. That's really the end of it, so I saved the big one for the end, unless you have any other questions or concerns with it.
See, I see Bigelow on there. How, and Jack's not here unfortunately. Any update on the Wendy's and the Kroger light repairs?
So, money has been appropriated for the Kroger light, so we should see some, my assumption is not quite as bad as whenever we had COVID, but ordering parts is obviously a delay in time. So, last I had heard with Jack in the conversations, there's some delay on ordering the part. As soon as the part gets in, they'll do the installation there. Bringing the Bigelow traffic signal online. Last time we talked at Safety and Service, we were reviewing the entire corridor and looking at the complexity of how everything is integrated together, what pulling a string on this end would do to the other. And I didn't get the sense, unless I'm wrong, that there's enough confidence to start activating that light without the unknown implications that it could make with that entire corridor. And the feedback that I received is we would like to take the time to do a little bit more evaluation. With that corridor, there's some options that were obviously presented to you all. Again, we're in budgeting season. We're gonna have to pick priorities that are important to us. I'll defer to the chief on this. You notice any hazardous situations that are happening there currently that would make alarm bells go off outside of any ordinary flow and function of traffic?
And it's Bigelow you're speaking about?
Correct.
No, there's no issues. There has been great flow of traffic with the turn lane being introduced, the removal of our no left turn sign. Traffic flow is fine. I don't believe that there's really any issues. The biggest issue is the Clark Drive. Kroger.
Well, my only reason I'm asking is that, you know, since we have the money and we're ordering the parts for the other two, once those are functional, if we have a third that's functional, again, if it was an IOU and that gear was sitting there and on a shelf someplace and we could put it someplace else, I'm all for that. But since the equipment's there, once we can get all three to talk to each other and efficiently move people without someone sitting at a yellow or sitting at a stoplight at 2 a.m., then I don't see the hesitation to turn them all on, as long as they can all communicate and efficiently move people, you know? So,
I don't have a problem one way or another if they get turned on, as long as they're flowing with traffic
Yeah.
and not working against.
once they operate the way that they're supposed to, and they can talk to each other and move
I
traffic
think
well,
the residents and the community members, they would probably want that to happen.
yeah. Yeah.
We can talk more about it, safety and service, if you guys want.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Moving on, council decision on zoning map amendment that was tabled June 18th, 2024. We're still waiting on that, Ms. Monroe?
Yes, the applicant, there's some issues that come up with legal counsel, just questioning a few things on some of the agreements, and they're still reviewing that, so the applicant requests to keep it tabled.
Okay. Moving to table legislation, which there's none. Public hearings of legislation. Resolution 2024-35, a resolution appointing members to the Johnstown New Community Authority Board of Trustees. So 2 months ago, when we first started talking about this, we had some time to get it done. We are now under a very, very, very tight deadline of getting this where it needs to be done tonight. Ms. Hollis and myself have reached out to multiple people. She and I came up with a list of 4 people that we would like to propose to council for the NCA committee. The first being John Kessler, who's the Vice President of Encova Insurance. Carrie Almendinger, who is is it President or Vice President of Heartland Bank?
Vice President.
Vice President of Heartland Bank. Denise Blankenmeyer, the owner of Crow Works. And then Jesse Koppel, a Chamber of Commerce President, and local resident. What are your thoughts on these 4 individuals? These 4 individuals said they would do it. And according to working with Jamie, the closing of a business is waiting on these 4 names, so.
You guys are both comfortable with these 4 names?
I know there were other names that were discussed. Did any of them reach back out and express interest that they'd like to be involved?
Let me think of the list.
We worked with
Not
John on
that-
these.
Yeah, like this was the top recommended based on, ability. Let me think if I have the other list with me.
Okay, any objections on this before we?
I have no joke. None.
Okay. I make a motion that we move forward with Resolution 2024-35, a resolution appointing members to the Johnstown New Community Authority Board of Trustees to appoint Mr. John Kessler, Ms. Carrie Almendinger, Ms. Denise Blankenmeyer, and Mr. Jesse Koppel.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I need, you gotta designate the 1-year and the 2-year terms.
So are we good with John Kessler, 2? Who else would you like to do for the 2?
I would probably do the top two as the two.
Okay, so John Kessler for 2 years and Carrie Almendinger for 2 years, Denise Blankenmeyer for 1 year, and Jesse Koppel for 1 year.
How long does Jesse have left on?
Zoning.
Jesse
He
has,
just got back on, didn't he?
Jesse has stated that if he's appointed to the NCA board, he will resign from zoning, so,
Are you sure about that?
yes, I'm 100% sure about that.
We texted today.
He texted,
Included me on it.
Reason why I asked, oh, well, okay, never mind, it's mute then, since he's not on zone.
so I made a motion, is there a second?
Carrie was willing to do the 2 year?
Yeah, she didn't really specify how long she'd be willing to do it. She said she's got some time constraints, like immediately right now. Joey just got married, but, she's definitely interested and her schedule will open up coming up, so.
I know you want to speak, but we have a motion on the floor, is there?
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion, Mr. Mayor. Technicality, not a big deal, except the statute calls for it. One of these 4 city appointees is also to be designated the representative of the perspective of local government. The other 3 are just quote-unquote city appointees. And everybody sort of brings the full perspective here, but it would be useful if one of the people could be designated in that role, if they have that background.
Meaning in the sense of governance?
In the sense of the way the board is set up, there is supposed to be a perspective of local government. And typically, that's been someone who has some local government experience in their background.
Okay, so can we, Can I
I
re-
think we just not second it, let it die.
Die.
Start over.
okay. Can we kill it now, Teresa?
Nobody seconded it, correct?
Nobody
Correct.
seconded it,
So it would die for lack of a second.
yes.
Okay. I'll make
Start fresh.
I'll make a motion that with Resolution 2024-35, a resolution appointing members to the Johnstown New Community Authority Board of Trustees, we appoint Mr. John Kessler to a 2-year term, Ms. Carrie Almendinger to a 2-year term, Ms. Denise Blankenmeyer to a 1-year term, and Jesse Koppel to a 1-year term. Jesse being the only member who's got governmental experience, that we make Jesse the governmental representative?
I was trying to discuss if Jesse's going to be our government representative, should he be on the 2-year for the continuity?
Right. Yeah, if you're gonna have somebody represent us, they need to be on for the 2 year.
Is there a difference?
Is there,
They can always be reappointed.
you can always make me reappointed, but,
It's just to have alternate, it's just to have alternating terms.
Yep.
okay,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
and I just want to confirm this with Greg since we have his legal counsel. It's my understanding that staff will be involved heavily with this process. Now, we are not a voting, obviously, member of this particular board, but from infrastructure and financial, Dave and myself will more than likely be hand in glove with a lot of the conversations that are happening. So I say that to where you maybe don't feel that therefore meeting kind of blindly. We'll be there as advisors so that we can assist them with any questions and obviously give recommendations and input as necessary. But we will, again, not be voting members to that board, but advisory. Is that
That's.
quasi-correct?
That is correct, and I would also step back and point out, the new community authority is one piece of a broader partnership that includes the city and includes developers who come to town and so forth. So I don't see the new community authority trundling off and doing things on its own. It was set up to provide some funding resources and to act in partnership, first and foremost, with the city.
There's been a motion made, is there a second?
Before there's a second, can I just clarify one thing?
Yes.
Thank you. It looks like in section 3, and I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. Section 3 is a 2-year term, and it says that is the one that is a representative of the local government.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So Jesse
Tiffany-
was put in 1 term, 1 year.
well, Tiffany, since you mentioned John Kessler and Carrie Allmendinger, which one of those would you like to replace with Jesse?
I don't think it matters.
I'd prefer Kessler on the 2.
Okay. Let my motion die one more time. And then someone please second it after that. Okay,
So have we, what, before we go in motion, Kessler 2, Jesse
Jesse
2,
2.
the other one's 1?
yes.
Everybody's good with that? My final question to you, these 4 people that you brought forward, the 2 of you have discussed and you guys are bringing it together, correct?
Yes.
Tiff? Yep. Okay. I have no more questions.
Okay, the final time. I make a motion that we move forward with Resolution 2024-35, a resolution appointing members to the Johnstown New Community Authority Board of Trustees. That Mr. John Kessler serve a 2-year term, Mr. Jesse Koppel serve a 2-year term, and also as the local government representative, Ms. Carrie Allmendinger for a 1-year term, and Ms. Denise Blankenmeyer for a 1-year term.
I second the motion.
Great. Did you vote for public hearing? Public hearing? Would anyone like to?
You can do it at this point.
Yeah, you
Fine.
can.
I'd like to open it up for public comment. Jamie, come on, this is yours.
No.
You got nothing for me? Thank you. No more public comment.
All right, Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cobble,
Yes.
Jeff Clark,
Yes.
Bob Orsini,
Yes.
Dave Seaman,
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Holland.
Yes.
Okay. Jamie, we're done with this.
There's, yeah, like we were saying, there's a lot of layers to it. So everything that happens in the vetted with council, with staff. Just getting some extra perspective.
Okay. I think we've got some great representatives there that's going to help. They all bring different things to the thing, so. Public hearings and legislation. The first item, or second item here is ordinance 23-2024, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a community reinvestment area agreement for the Innovation Park Data Center campus and declaring it emergency. So this is the second reading. Mr. Stipe, if you'd like to come up.
Mayor, members of council, this is the long we promised you was the legislative end of the road with respect to the initial CRA agreement. We passed out with city council with this resolution, a summary of the high points and terms of this particular CRA agreement. It covers the 154-acre area in the recent annexation, which we call the tech campus. The Johnstown Land Company has a potential data center developer committed to taking down this 154 acres, and they would then, subject to electricity supply, proceed with the development of up to 10 data centers on this property. Each of those data centers would be, upon completion, would be entitled to a 15-year, 100% real property tax abatement. Each of those data centers would pay municipal income taxes as a business entity. The employees working at each of those data centers would pay employee income taxes as employees working in the city. Each of those data centers would pay the community development charge that goes with the new community authority that you just populated with city members, the charge being 9.75 mils. And each of those data centers would be required to pay a minimum payment based on their square footage that they develop during the time they have their property tax abatement. The model here is very much built upon the model from your neighbor to the immediate south, where they've enjoyed success with these kinds of basic terms. I'm going to look quickly at my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I think I'm happy to address your questions.
You said it's all, can you repeat the very beginning part of it? It's abating all the taxes, right, for 30 years?
It's abating the
15.
real property taxes for 15 years on the buildings. The real property taxes that exist today continue to remain in effect on the underlying land.
Okay.
So if I'm correct, Jamie, it's 400,000 an acre?
Correct.
So the property, 157 acres, will be sold for $400,000 an acre. So we're going to collect the income tax, or the real estate tax on the $400,000 an acre. We will not get the real estate taxes on the buildings that will be built there, but on the land value itself.
This is a question that's been lingering in my mind about, I follow what you're saying there. Hypothetically, of course, the recreation district passes a levy. The land is in play, but the building is not?
Yes.
On the abatement, am I understanding that correctly?
For the 15 years that the abatement exists on each building, the land is in play.
Okay.
The building is not.
And then they certainly could come back to renew, but if it didn't, year 16, it's on the building.
Correct.
To my understanding on that levy, just making numbers up, if it was 2 mills and it collected $1 million, as new things come in, mine goes down, you pick up the slack, it's spread, we're still only gonna get $2 million. When the buildings come on the roll, would that be additional to the,
Yes.
right? It's not gonna get spread out, it would be more money for the
It's not
recreation district.
subject to the tax, well, I think you're referring to the tax reduction factor. It's not subject to the tax reduction factor. When the building comes on the roll, that's new
New.
property value.
Right.
That is subject to the millage, and it's not offset
Okay,
by the tax reduction factor.
they get more in this,
Yes.
okay.
The other thing I would mention, since we paused on the value of the acreage.
Yeah, I want to, I think I misspoke, or it's 292,000
Okay.
per acre. That 400, I don't know if that came up, I don't know what that 400, if it was a square footage number or, but yeah.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah, sorry, to answer your question, 292,000.
It's a $45 million,
That's maybe,
yeah, it's $45 million that will collect
Correct.
real estate taxes on,
Correct.
So
and NCA, or the NCA fees. Yes, Bob?
I have a question. So, the abatement comes on when, development completes or begins, or,
the abatement begins, according to the words of the statute, the first year real property value from the new building would otherwise be subject to real property taxes. What that probably means for most buildings is the abatement will commence in a year of partial completion and partial value. But it is at that
it would be
point.
consistent to
Yes.
whichever, so you said up to 10 sites.
Right.
So that abatement could be 50 years from now if they build 6 sites and then build 4 more in 50 years.
But only, yes. But
Only on those-
Property value will have
only-
quadrupled by then.
I'm sorry?
The property value will have skyrocketed by then, but they'll be paying taxes will be,
Well,
It's, it's only on the buildings,
it's only on the building.
it's only on the building, so if building one is, that 15-year clock starts on that building one.
Right.
building 2 doesn't start for 5 more years, that clock for 15 years starts on that building then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Each building, at that moment of its completion and exposure to real property taxes, then gets the 15-year abatement. So it's not that the collected buildings.
No, I'd just like to see, I'd like to see an end date for that abatement to run out. Because into perpetuity is a scary.
Well, I was gonna add, it's not in perpetuity in the agreement. The agreement says that if you don't build the building by 2066, no more abatements.
2066?
Yes.
40 years out.
That is right.
Don't hold your breath, right?
Well, data center developers, there's a lot of demand right now. They'll act if the
Being
demand is
facetious.
there.
Understood.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I'm sorry, was as to the property value of the land. I mean, I'm assuming, and Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, that this land has historically probably been subject to current agricultural use valuation.
That's correct.
It's correct, yeah.
As a consequence, the mere fact that the land is coming off of agricultural use value and moving toward commercial value is going to greatly increase the value of the land, and that will increase the real property tax take from the land, even though the buildings are abated. And so anyone who's getting real property taxes off of that land right now at CAUV, like the school district, is gonna start getting real property taxes off that land in the future at commercial value, not CAUV value.
And if
that
you.
will not be adjusted.
And I've looked at all the parcels that are in that 400 some acres, and the total fee collected by the city in real estate taxes is minimal. I mean, it's under $5,000 that we've collected in a year on 400 some acres. The amount of money that, even though people hear the word abatement and think they're getting off scot-free, the amount of money that the city will earn just in real estate taxes alone is going to be a pretty good figure.
And,
When they're
you've got
developed.
the,
Right.
sorry, you've got the new community authority.
You got which is a big
millage.
charge.
That applies, even though the real property tax abatement is in place, and you have these minimum payment
Wait.
requirements as well. And the city gets its municipal income taxes, which are not subject to any kind of abatement or rollback.
Yeah, Ms. Hollis,
That's not right.
what's not right?
It's not when the structure is abated. The property tax will start as soon as the sale closes, right? The
Yes.
property will switch to commercial, and the real estate taxes on the real property would start then.
Well, not immediately, just because of the
Right.
built-in delays
But,
of our
yeah.
property tax system, but yes.
Once the land sale goes through.
Yeah. The abatements on the improvements to
Not
Yeah.
in the-
Yep. Any other questions for Mr. Stipe? Okay. Any public comments from Mr. Stipe or for the council? Yes, ma'am, if you could come up here so we can hear you.
I just was curious, you said 5,000 was the amount of tax being collected off of that property. So
So-
like quantify how much it will be, I know you said.
So
would
it
be
was
roughly-
5,000, so when I say 5,000, that's the city's portion. So the city gets 5% of the real estate taxes. And I believe on that area, we weren't even collecting city real estate taxes because it wasn't even in the city. Our portion would have been about $5,000. Now, the school gets 60-some percent or 50-some percent, and the fire department gets a little bit less than that. But that would have been our take on that land.
So under the new valuation, what dollar
Um,
amount would it be approximately?
Jesse, I'm trying to think of the numbers. I think it was a couple 100,000
Okay,
that the city would gain on it.
okay. The other question too was, what specific property is this? Like which
This is,
140 acres? you
this
said?
is between the land between Duncan Plains and Green Chapel, those 400 acres that were annexed in that area. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which,
Like Dagg's old property or?
Which sub-area?
Yeah.
Sub-area.
It's sub-area one,
Okay.
which is, of the PD, the northwestern portion.
Yeah.
that's the closest to Duncan Plains, correct?
Yeah, it's a Duncan Plains in
Clover Valley.
Okay.
So that's the part that will, I believe that will be right behind my property.
It would be, I think, northwest of your property.
Okay.
Yeah. I can show you on the map.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last question, this is just me talking, thinking back, but I thought data centers, I thought we were looking for properties that were gonna be high employment.
So that's one of the things,
That's what it was.
that's one of the things that we've talked about. So the data centers actually have an increased value on the property. So you make more money
Oh,
through the
okay.
NCA agreement.
Got it.
The employees, it has a very low number of employees, but you don't earn as much off the income tax from those employees as you do as the NCA. So, and it doesn't have as big of an impact on the city, on our infrastructure, on traffic,
Services.
and on our services. So that's why New Albany has kind of looked at data centers so much, because it has a very minimal impact on their footprint of the city with people-wise, but brings them in a great deal of money.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I can expand on that just
Yes.
real quick. So, good economic development policies explore a variety of options when it comes to economics and revenue for the city. So, a data center is an opportunity to insulate the city whenever there's a downturn in the economics. So, whenever there's employment layoff, obviously we're gonna feel that pretty heavily. But I would say the city currently is looking at a variety of economic revenue sources. And if we just put all our eggs in one basket, then that could leave us vulnerable in other situations. So as we look at data centers, we're also going to be looking at those high employment, high earner type of situations as well. So I didn't want you to walk away feeling like we were only going to explore data centers. I think it's a nice collective piece that you're going to want to explore and that we are exploring, so that we can have a nice, defensible, reliable portfolio. That way it can ebb and flow with the typical cycles of the economy, so.
So it's kind of like an investment strategy. You want to have some stocks, bonds,
Yeah.
all different kinds of things to protect yourself with a downturn. So it's one of the pieces.
Okay, makes sense. I just was trying to recall how that was supposed to work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else with comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, does council have any more questions for Mr. Stipe? Thank you, sir, for coming. What is the will of council for ordinance 23-2024?
No one wants to motion it?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 23-2024 as written.
Wait, before you do, we have to declare it an emergency first. Or did
It's
it-
written in the ordinance, so I
Okay.
think that's a fine.
Work fine, okay.
It says
Okay.
it's an
Okay, so we just need a second now?
Yes.
Second.
Dave Seeland,
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis,
Yes.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Parker. Jeff Barr,
Yes.
Al Orsini.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Moving on to introduction of legislation, we have two items that are introduction tonight, and introduction only. The first is ordinance 24-2024. This is kind of the baby that a couple of us have worked on for a long time. This is an ordinance establishing an economic assistance program for Johnstown citizens who work and live in the city of Johnstown. So this is an item that would go through if the income tax actually increased or passed in November. This would entitle any individual who works and lives in Johnstown and makes between $20,000 and $75,000 annually in Johnstown to be entitled to a $250 rebate check under the program. It would allocate about $100,000 from our new income tax to go to this program. It would effectively bring the effective income tax rate below 2.25% for anyone making $75,000 and below. So this is an item that we've worked on for quite a while. Does council have any questions or comments on this item since it's just an introduction? Okay. Does the public have any questions or comments on this one tonight? Okay, hearing none. So that is the first reading, Ms. Monroe. We will move on to the next one. Okay. The next is a first reading for ordinance 25-2024, an ordinance to amend section 1131.09 of the city's codified ordinances. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Green, let him explain what we're doing here.
Yeah, so essentially, we're changing may to shall. So as we know, in a lot of our code, if it doesn't say shall, it probably won't happen. So I would say this is part of a larger push, though. We don't necessarily have to go forward with this one. I think it's part of a larger push on the notification of zoning changes to properties, where we're doing the proper diligence on those to make sure that the public is notified in a timely manner in the right ways. So this is just one specific point, but
I would like to thank those that helped clean up around the stadium there after the football game for the band festival, I guess, if you will, that we had going on there Saturday. I had a couple neighbors on the street that asked me to say something about that, so I thought I would. So I appreciate that. And then it made me also wonder, does the council and/or city have an area that we have adopted to, maybe clean up along the roadway?
We've tried doing it a couple times with the downtown. There's a couple of us who went and helped clean the downtown, but I think that would be a perfect area. Because when we did it, there were a lot of cigarette butts, weeds growing up through the cracks, stuff like that. If we could organize something for a Saturday, I'd love to do it.
Let's reach out to the school board. The high school kids have to get community service hours. I'm not sure how they get them or what all it takes to get them, but this is a great opportunity to just come out and, we could do some serious damage if we can get 20 to 30 motivated people that need community service hours out there. The project scale could go up dramatically. And I think if we could communicate a little with the school board, find a way to make that work and to say, hey, you need hours to graduate community service. Here's your offer. We got 2 hours, and we can really, get something done if we organize. I don't know where the kids get them all from, but I know they all need them.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Bob.
Okay. Like that. And Mr. Barr, do you have anything for other business?
I do not. Thank you, sir, for that.
Bob? Ms. Hollis?
I do. I think we all got phone calls from the township trustees, Monroe Township trustees, regarding the tap fee for the old fire station for the YMCA. So I don't know if we want to have a discussion about that. I know I've gotten follow-up phone calls. I was hoping we could do it at our liaison committee meeting, but it got canceled, so I'm just not sure where we're at on that, but I know they're kind of needing an answer.
I had a good conversation with them. I mean, did they propose something specific? They just put it on a radar just to say, hey, they want to have
Yeah, we
something
just need
malleable
to-
to
yeah.
at least discuss.
Mhm.
So,
And I know
I
none
think-
of us, I don't know if you were here when that initial tap fee situation happened. Were you a part of council at that point?
No, I wasn't on council.
for
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah, I think it was before all of us, so I know
Maybe, Bob.
there's some stuff that we,
School.
In between.
I was way back with the school.
In between, Bob.
so we're inheriting an issue, but we just need to get it resolved.
I think we can probably work something out with them, whether it's either a stretch of that fee or at least a consideration for what they have in mind. It sounds like they have something in mind that they would want to propose. Is that the kind of,
And I was totally in support of doing something with this, and I saw their proposal, what the Y was proposing, and when, in the first steering committee meetings, we were looking at like after-school care, before-school care, more with kids. Based on the proposal that they sent to the school, it appeared to be that it was more of a gym offering. And I'm not sure I want to use government funds to subsidize another gym in this town. How does it impact the other gyms in town?
There's 3, right? Other gyms? maybe 4.
Maybe 4, I don't know.
No,
So
4 CrossFit.
CrossFit's 4.
Include, Fit Zone.
I haven't
So
seen the
can we
proposal
get-
from the Y.
I'm sure we could have those discussions. I'm a big believer, and I struggle with the township having control over the middle of the city. And I know there's funding issues, but, I just believe that being this the heart of the city, it should be governed by this board. I know there's more to it than that. That's an easy say than to do, but it's
The other question.
not by what's being done or who's doing it. It's just as a matter of principle. It's the center of town.
The other question, talking to Mr. Barr, is if they're offering services like that, how does it impact the Greater Johnstown Parks and Rec Board? Are they going to be providing the same service? Are they competing entities in those two things? And I think I asked Jeff if there are cities that have both a greater, or a Parks and Rec Board and a Y, and how do they commingle?
Gahanna's got a YMCA, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Gehanna?
It's nothing more than a lap pool, swim teams, and a fitness center.
It's gonna get hard to get a lap pool in that building.
Upstairs.
And they have other programs, but that's their revenue source. The swim lessons, fitness, gym fees, whatever you want to call them. That's their revenue source. They do provide some other children's programs, but the bulk of their visitorship are those two things.
There's a meeting Thursday with the Y.
I don't know.
Okay, there's a meeting Thursday with Y where I was going to ask some questions before, to get more basic information for myself so I can make a better decision, but
I'd ask to see that plan as well, same city funding and all that kind of stuff. I'm in support of it, but again, if there's something to take a look at and read, I want to take a look at it too.
I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen an agreement, or a proposal
Yeah.
from the Y. I just know that.
It was the second hand that we got it, and so I thought it was interesting that we hadn't seen it in the
Sean,
city.
can you correct, me, or, I haven't said it yet, so don't correct me yet, but if I'm wrong, correct me. The tap fee for the old, fire station is based on the size of the water supply, is that correct? Because it was a fire station?
I don't have much background on this at all.
Okay.
So I can reach out to the township trustees to try to find out exactly what is being proposed, as far as what size, what quantity. I don't know if there's a fire suppression system in there in conjunction with just the main water line that they're utilizing. So there's a variety of questions that I would have, that I would need to understand, so I could help you all understand.
And I guess, like, regardless of who's gonna occupy the space, it's probably something we need to try to figure out sooner than later as far as the tap fee. Because obviously it's not gonna be a fire department, so,
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have more information Thursday.
okay.
Okay. Ryan, do you have anything?
As far as, yeah, so a lot went on in Johnstown this weekend. We had a great car show. So thanks to downtown Johnstown and everyone that helped out with that. Another great weekend of the adult softball league. So moving on towards last games of the year, for the regular season next week, and, Browns won. So that was great. We have Johnstown Backers Group, so it meets at Uncle Johnny's, so that was handy.
I do have one thing.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Wagner was here, I think, back in the spring, and he talked about how the school started the new math program this year, where between 5th and 12th grade previously, I'm assuming it's kind of more of college preparatory math classes. What was done 5th to 12th grade is now being done in 5th to 10th grade. I know several of the children in that program, including one resident that resides in my house, so I wanted to report out that they did deliver on that. I'm assuming everything's going well, but I know as a parent, I was excited to hear about that, and the school has come through with that and started that program as they said they would. So happy for the school board that they were able to execute that plan in place.
Mr. Sealand?
American Legion breakfast this weekend, 8 to 10, donation, by donation. Outstanding food.
Dave's making gravy.
We're working on it. We're getting better with our sausage gravy.
Just fresh biscuits, dude.
Biscuits are good. This is good. The whole thing is good. Everything is good. The school year at the elementary is going great. I will say that. One big thing is for people to consider, if at all possible, signing up as a substitute teacher. It is 100% joyous time and 100% based on that person's involvement. You don't wake up one morning with an assignment saying, "Oh, I got to get to work." You can pick your days that you choose to serve the school. It's an amazing experience. It's something I've chosen to go into, and it really does help because we have a desperate need for substitute teachers as well. There's also opportunities for volunteering with background check for school lunches, and it's an hour and 50-minute commitment, start to finish. And opening a yogurt pack for a kindergartner, seeing the look that you get from them is outstanding as well. And also the flip side of that coin is for each volunteer that does come in, you're sending a classroom teacher back for either an extended lunch or a little bit of extra planning period as well. So if you can come in, again, background check is required. Principal Wagner has that link out there as well. But again, it's an outstanding piece right in the middle of the day. First shift is at 11:20 and you're pretty much done by 1 o'clock, I think, right?
It was about 12:30.
About 12:30. So it's a very short commitment, quick cycles, and it's fun to see the kids. So that's it.
Okay. There is a farmer's market tomorrow. It's 4:30 to 7:30. The hours are slightly different tomorrow because of the sun setting. And I believe there's another one after that, October 2nd, that will be 4:30 to 7:30 also. Before we move to executive session, we have 2 residents who would like to speak on the resolutions upcoming. Before we move to executive session, I discussed this with Teresa and Bob, and this was the best time since it's items on the agenda. So whoever would like to come speak.
Barnard. Thank you for having me, councilmen and women. Susan Cullen, the Executive Director of Johnstown Lifestyle. I'm here to speak on behalf of Nicole Shook in regard to my experience working with her on the board of Johnstown Lifestyle. And as all of you are aware, we've all been part of putting boards together, putting teams together, and it's very important that you choose the right people for your teams. And an important piece of that is having somebody that brings experience and a skill set to your team. But I have 5 things that are extremely important to me when I was planning the Johnstown Lifestyle Board. Not only is experience and skill set important, but to me, passion for what you do, for the project at hand, and what that means to the community is, this isn't necessarily in this order, commitment to the community long-term, and what it means to the community to have somebody that's very committed. The ability to research new ideas, bring new ideas to the team that you're on, and to keep your organization moving forward is also very important to me. And also being a team player, which is being a good listener, lifting your team members up, supporting them when they are in good times and bad, and also growth. That's really important as a team member, to grow personally and grow your organization professionally. And I've not only experienced this with all 4 of us that are on my board, but I would like to just say, working with Nicole for the last 9 months, I didn't really know Nicole before. I chose her to be on the board, but I chose the other 4 people that are on the Johnstown Lifestyle Board for their skill set. Nicole brings marketing and event promotion, which was desperately needed for this organization because it's important for health and wellness to have that. But there's not been one time that I've asked Nicole to do something where she hasn't said, how fast do you need it? I'll research it for you. She brings the idea back to me with hours, within hours sometimes, versus, getting her, not getting a response at all, with somebody not returning a text. So she's been a great team player. My team has experienced more good things than challenging things, but I can tell you that she is passionate about what she does. She brings a commitment to the community because she cares, and that's why all of us are here, because she does care. And I would just like to give my support on her being considered for the Greater Johnstown Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Mayor and City Council. My name is Ashley Kuzner. I also work with Nicole and Susan on the Johnstown Lifestyle Board. And I just wanted to kind of give you guys my support for Nicole on the Parks and Recs Board. I've been working with her for about the last year on Johnstown Lifestyle, and just seeing her desire and commitment to see Johnstown be better has been really inspiring to me. And I don't think that, like, during this time at all, I've ever seen her not have a positive thing to say about Johnstown, and I think she's really working to make the city better. I've particularly seen her manning Parks booth at like the Fireman's Festival. She's always out there helping with the band and things like that, at the football games. She's really invested in the community. She's an individual that loves this city and has so much passion for it, and I really think she'd bring a great experience to the Parks and Recs Board. Not to mention, she's already been on the board for several months, so I'd really like to see her reappointed to continue the work that she's been doing there. So yeah, I really support her for this. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Anything else before we move to executive session? I make a motion that we move to executive session to consider appointment of a public official to include just the 7 members of City Council. We will return upon completion for 2 items of business.
Second the motion.
Members of council?
Do what?
Yeah, you said 7 members.
Yes.
Hold over there.
We'll have to go
I
back.
gotta wait around for the next one.
Yes, and we will call applicants in.
Mayor Barno,
Yes.
Wes Coble,
Yes.
Jeff Barr,
Yes.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Dave Sealand.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Holland.
Yes.
Okay, we're bringing regular councils back to session. We did some interviewing, had some conversations. What is the will of council with resolution 2024 -37? That one's.
Make the motion to appoint Nicole Shook to the Greater Johnstown Park and Rec District Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Public hearing on this? Anyone from the public? Okay. Dave Sealing,
Yes.
Ryan Green,
No.
Tiffany Hollis,
No.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cole,
Yes.
Jeff Barr,
No.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-37 passes. Resolution 2024-36, a resolution appointing a board member to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We want to thank the three of you who came out tonight to interview. We would like to still do one more interview because it looks like we're going to be appointing two people. So we want to be able to do the last interview before we do both appointments. So we're talking about doing a special session next week or the following week when we do council to do that final interview and then be able to appoint, because we're asking people to, who do you want out of these four with not be able to meet with one of them, so. Is that understandable and okay with you guys? Okay, we just want to be fair to all applicants. The fourth applicant was coming home from his honeymoon today, so.
Is there anything pressing on zoning for Tuesday?
That's what I was gonna ask. So we don't know the agenda yet, but we do know there's a meeting scheduled.
I don't know, I know Terry's forwarded a couple things.
Yeah, they, let's see, so
My
one
brain
item.
hasn't shifted to that. After,
yeah.
after tonight, my brain shifts to
Yeah.
zoning.
That's a Thursday, Friday question.
Right.
You have an application to amend
Zoning.
light manufacturing
Yes.
permitted uses. It will be a public hearing. You don't have to make a decision for 30 days. You can make a decision that night, or you can make a decision in 30 days. And that recommendation will go then to council, and then council will ultimately get to decide on that. The other piece that I would want to understand, if Jesse resigns prior to that, you would have a board of three, which we would require all three members to be there in order to have a quorum. If Jesse is not resigning prior to that, then there's probably a high probability that we would be able to have a quorum, excluding somebody not being present. There's times where people have things to do, they have lives. They're not always able to make it, so. Other than that, I think that's the one item that I know for sure. There could be additional items that I'm just not remembering. So,
The only other thing is for design review board.
I think Jesse probably won't resign until after that meeting, so that would give us, so, okay. That is all that's on the agenda tonight.
Make a motion to table resolution 2024-37.
Second.
Are all in favor of
Aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed?
Okay. I make a motion that we move to executive session to consider the purchase of property with all council members present and the city manager.
With no business to follow.
With no business to follow, good night. We will not have anything to do.
I second that.
We'll stay in here.
Yes.
Yes.
stay
I
here.
gotta do a roll call.
No, not allowed.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cole.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Dave Sealing.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
All right.